Good evening, all. Welcome to the Bobby Moore stand. It finished Crystal Palace 0, West Ham United 2. What a fantastic day, or a fantastic result for Julian Lopetegui's West Ham team. Bit of a strange lineup, I think you'll agree. We're going to get and discuss all that. I've got a guest on tonight because Chris is away in Cornwall, where he got attacked by a seagull earlier, nicked his really large, he said specifically it was a very large Cornish pasty, literally swooped down while he was eating it and took it away. So he was mortified. I'd have been in tears. So I've got a special guest on tonight. His name is Jim Grant, and he comes from the Stop Hammer Time podcast, and he's also one of my friends who I've been to lots of away games with, and part of our sort of pre-match and post-match group as well. That podcast is the oldest West Ham podcast. I think it's been running since 2007. It's on nearly 450 episodes. It's in its 17th season, right? So Jim knows his West Ham. Let's put it like that. So without further ado, let's bring Jim onto screen. Jim, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, mate. Yeah, very good. Very happy.
I'm sure you are. So, how was it? First of all, how was Selhurst Park today?
Well, it's. I mean, it's a shithole. Let's face it. It's you know, the usual crush trying to get in. And it was sort of gloomy and overcast and drizzly. But we brightened. You know, the sun came out as our performance improved as the game went on. So yeah, it was good.
You didn't have those seats where half the pitch was obscured, did you?
No, because I'm a away season ticket holder. They do tend to look after us, I think, by giving tickets. Places like that and Goodison, as you'll probably know, awkward if you're stuck at the back. But no, I was in row 10, so quite nice. Well, actually, got a bit drizzled on actually, but I'd rather and not be able to see the game. So.
It was a cracking atmosphere over there today from the away fans.
Yeah, they were. The fans were in really good voice from the start. We were on the front foot first 5-10 minutes. The ball was all in the Palace half to start with, and the crowd were really up for it. Really up for it. It was good. Really good.
Brilliant. I did like the song in the second half. Aaron Wan-Bissaka started singing "He Left 'Cause You Shit." I mean, it's an old classic, isn't it? But always makes you laugh.
It is, yes, yeah. And we've got the new Fulkrug's loving his song. We've got a big.
How does that go?
We've got a big fucking German, basically.
That's really original.
Well, he loved it. Yeah, he was giving it the crossed hammers at the end. It was good.
Brilliant stuff. Did they all come across, all the players and the manager?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Rightly so, and it was a good performance in the end. Although we rode our luck a bit. We'll probably talk about that as we go on.
Yeah. Good evening to everyone in the chat, by the way. Thanks for joining. What did you think of the lineup when it came out?
I was not surprised, and in fact, somebody seemed to have some inside info in the bar beforehand where we were, and seemed to think that it will be the same starting lineup as
right.
So how they knew, I don't know, but it didn't entirely surprise me. I think he's quite a conservative manager. I think we're going to have to get used to that. He's practically conservative, and I think he's giving the old guard, as it were, every chance to prove themselves, and I think that's a fair thing. And I think he's obviously in training, and he's integrating new players and building. So to me, although I'm sure some people are a bit disappointed by it, to me, I can see the logic. I can see the fairness of it as well. Somebody I was talking to had the sort of slightly wacky theory that he's partly starting people like Sufal and Weber and Souček to prevent them putting a transfer request in.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I didn't have that theory, but I did have one theory. Perhaps it was a conspiracy theory, a beautiful one, and that was to do with to do with perhaps putting them in the shop window, because we need to clear some players out before we get some players in. But my sensible side of my brain told me that was wrong. And what he seems to be doing is the opposite of what Moyes was doing last year, where, you know, Moyes liked 14 players, 15 players, a core, and he looked after them and everybody else was outside. I think what he's trying to do is along the lines of what you said. He treats all the players as one big group, one big squad, and he looks after all of them. And that team dynamic, I think, is really important with the incumbents, right?
Yeah. And I think the other thing that to sort of reinforces that is that you will consistently see 5 substitutes being played. So the sort of sense in which they are all likely to get game time. I mean, you know, it's unfortunate that we've not got the European football. So he's only got one, you know, if we don't progress in cups, he's only going to have one game a week. You know, there are a lot of people to keep happy, aren't they? But I think the thing about it is that I don't think he wants to get rid of the Součeks and the Soufals of this world. I think obviously Cornet, the ones that are really out on a limb, Cornet,
Aguerd.
It's already Aguerd is being frozen out, isn't he? And well, Ings came on against Villa, didn't he? But and I feel slightly sorry for Danny Ings, because towards the end of last season, when he did come on, play games like that Sheffield United game away, he actually played quite well. It's just, you know, he just seemed to be. It was just an illogical signing, wasn't it? For
the way we play, or the way we played, you know, having one up front, isolated in many games, is ridiculous for someone of his stature. He's never played like that. He's always played in the front too, and that is why Villa sold him. Was they wanted to play with one up front?
Yeah,
he couldn't do it. You know, I thought a lot of one thing I took away from today is the coach probably knows the squad better than I do. Right, and probably better than many West Ham fans do. I think got to start giving him a chance. I think there was a lot of people really kicking off when they saw that that lineup. I was surprised by it, but I weren't gonna kick off. I just sort of thought, let's see how it goes and hope that it worked. Right, Souček couldn't play, to my mind, as bad as he did last week. I think what happened last week, my theory was that he picked. The players were in the wrong position to deliver the tactics that he wanted to deliver, right? So he ended up with Souček isolating Guido Rodriguez last week to basically do all the defensive work by himself, whereas this week he had Paqueta alongside him, didn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't a lot at the game. I was in Edinburgh, so I only watched it in a pub with an astonishing number of Villa fans, considering it was Edinburgh. And the impression I got from that game last week was that oddly Souček was the most pushed on of the midfield, and was doing the box to box sort of slightly deeper role, which wasn't the way it was in the. I didn't go live to the. I was part of the boycott, obviously, but the game against Betis, then Paqueta played as a proper number 10 in that game, didn't he? It was behind the striker and had a good game. And I thought it was as much that odd structural setup that you've kind of referred to that seemed to be a problem. And again, you know, Souček was the furthest forward again today. That seems to be how he's going to use him. I mean, I had a couple of young lads behind me at the game giving him dog's abuse the entire game, criticising everything Souček did, get him off the pitch, blah, 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 blah. So when he scored, I just turned around to them and I just kind of gave it a big smiley shrug. I said, look, that's why he plays. He scores goals. Somebody, I haven't checked this, but somebody told me again before the game, his scoring record, his goals per game, very, very comparable to Trevor Sinclair's.
Yeah.
And when you think about that, you know, you realise his worth. He gets so many late goals. He gets into. He's got a poacher's instinct. He's one of the better finishers at the club. And of course, he puts his body on the line as well in defensive situations. What he lacks is the mobility to be a genuine sort of box-to-box midfielder. He just doesn't get about the pitch enough, you know. And
It will never be that. But what I saw in the first half, I've got to say, Jim, I watched the first half and I was quite happy with it. I thought it turned from, we started the game really well. We had 7 shots on goal in 17 minutes, right? They weren't on target, but when you look at the chances we missed, I mean, Antonio had what I thought was a sitter early on. He just hasn't got the anticipation of a striker, so he didn't know he had to be on that far post. And then a very similar thing happened a couple of minutes later, and he was even further away from getting the flick on. They were 2 really golden opportunities, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think the first quarter of an hour we were at it. They were curiously subdued. They weren't really pressing us hard enough.
Yeah.
But they came into it. Mainly because we gave the ball away too much in that first half. And on transition, they look really dangerous. Wharton plays. I like him. He's a good player, and he plays incisive, progressive balls. Eze's a threat. They could have scored. I mean, Eze hit the bar with a great shot. They had 1 or 2 other chances. Ariel had to be sharp off his line to stop another one. And I felt, I looked up and I was at about 25 minutes. The game was shifting their way, I thought, a bit. So I felt 0-0 at half time probably was on balance a fair reflection of a first half of 2 halves, really.
I think it was. I think it was because we definitely had the better of the early exchanges, and then they grew into the game and they kind of dominated for a little while. And I think they missed their big players, like Elise. They weren't as effective down that side, and they lost Anderson, so they had a kind of a makeshift, a brand new left-sided centre back who Bowen went on to, take advantage of later in the game, which was really good. So it wasn't really what you could call a full strength Palace side. But then again, it's not because they got injuries or anything like that, apart from maybe a midfielder. It's because they've sold players. They've got rid of players. Even Gahey was supposed to be leaving last week for 60 million. Yes. And he played. He wasn't very impressive either, was he?
I've never been that impressed with him, to be honest. I thought when Conser came in for him in that in the European Championship, I thought Conser was unlucky to lose his place. To be honest, I think he's decent. I think he's okay. I think he's a good player. I tell you what, on the back, I mean, we might come on to talk about individual players in a bit more detail later. But Kilman was different gravy today. Honestly, it's imperious, and I'd rather have him than Gahey, to be honest.
He looked like a Rolls Royce. He was absolutely sublime, some of the stuff he'd done, and that run for the second goal was incredible. I just want to pick up Carpy 999 on this comment. Souček played the same role as last week. Well, kind of he did, but he didn't, right? He was playing in the advanced role, but last week he was also doing what he did a lot last year, which was running around the midfield doing not a lot. Today, he was joining the press up front with often Paqueta, Kudus, and Bowen. Bowen was working hard down one side, and it did look like a press. It looked like an actual press, especially for the first little bit of that game. And I also noticed that they were all getting up and down the pitch. So Paqueta, occasionally, you could find him over helping Soufal out against Eze. They were definitely trying to double up and triple up on Eze rather than leaving him to run at Soufal by himself.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I mean, I felt, part of the problem in the first half is, and this is the thing about the whole pressing business, which I don't know about you. In the 1970s, when I started watching football, we never talked about that kind of thing. It was unheard of. But the thing about this pressing is you can't sustain it full pelt for a half even, and we ease up on it. And I think you just have to at times. You have to know as a team when the momentum of the game is going your way and switch it on. I'm slightly more concerned at the other end that we struggle to play through a press at the moment. No doubt that's something that he's going to have to work on in training. It's something that I'm hoping Todibo will improve our ability to do that as he gets settled into the team more, and maybe Wan-Bissaka as well. But we part of our problems came in that second half of that first half because we were just we weren't getting up the pitch. We were passing it sideways, and they were pressing more effectively than they did for the first quarter of an hour, 20 minutes.
I think Nigel's got a good point here. Souček nearly scored last week. Yeah, I mean, he did. He very nearly scored twice. He always, when you give Souček a job to do, he tries to do the job to the best of his ability. He always gives 100%. Sometimes he's completely ineffective, but you can't doubt his effort. I think last week, we looked a bit disjointed last week, I've got to be honest, and Villa were very good. They took advantage of us. They picked on our weaknesses, like Soufal, who was a weakness last week because he was getting isolated in a 2-on-1 down the left-hand side. He was also blown out of his arse a bit, Soufal, last week, and he wasn't today. I thought Soufal was actually all right today as well. And I've said this for ages. I don't mind keeping Soufal as a reserve right-back. What's the problem with that?
No, not at all. I thought he was one of the better right-backs in the Euros, to be honest. I feel he's being asked, the fullback is being asked to play a slightly different role by Loppy. I think he's pushing into midfield. Well, it wasn't so obvious today, but certainly against Villa, he was, partly out of position, partly because I think of the role that he's being asked to play. Get forward a lot, be an out ball, tuck in sometimes. We were very narrow today, and at the back, and that they exploited that on the left-hand side particularly, I thought. But no, I think you're right. I mean, our friend Nigel is right. I'm a fan of Souček. Goals are a precious commodity, and he gets them, and he prevents them as well. He's a warrior. He has a skill set, that if you use it right, he's a good footballer. Some of his little link up touches and things around the box today were really, really good.
Also, one thing I noticed that the defense were doing, and I didn't really notice this last year, and I mean all of the defenders, it seems to be a mindset now, is even if it looks like they're going to lose out and they're going to lose a tackle, right? They try to get something on the ball. Even if it's a little toe or a little heel or something like that, they were all doing it. Even Soufal lost Eze a couple of times, but he tried to get a little toe in, and it disrupted the play. Right? It's clearly something that they're being programmed to do. By the way, this looks like from Bill. Thanks, Bill. At the end of the game, before he went to shake Glasner's hand, I assume this is Lopetegui. He made a point of congratulating each of the players on the bench. I love that. He's got a good way about him. And tonight, because it was a clean sheet, Loppy will be taking the whole squad out to dinner on his expense. It's what he does, because he's an ex-goalkeeper. Whenever there's a clean sheet, he takes them out to dinner. He respects the clean sheet.
Well, right. Well, I mean, yeah. No, it's nice. They're good. They're good things. I mean, we mocked Allardyce for it, but if the opposition doesn't score, you've got a very good chance of winning the game, haven't you? So yeah. And second half, we were better, and they were. We came out about 2 minutes early for the it's the earliest I've ever seen.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, it might even have been about. They were standing around for about 2 or 3 minutes, waiting. All the stuff was still going.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he sent them out very early.
I like that. I really like that.
I thought we were up to, and I'll tell you something about. I mean, I probably don't want to talk too much about Palace, but I thought under Glasner they were going places. I worried about them going past us because they had some very good players last season. 2 seasons in a row now, they've absolutely done a number on us over there. In fact, although the scoreline was horrendous and the 4-0 after half an hour last year, the season before they passed the shit out of us. I mean, they absolutely passed us. So I was a bit worried about them because I think he's a good manager, and but I really sense we wanted it more than them second half, particularly that they were not up for the fight, and I think they're in trouble because they've been destabilized by owners wanting to buy stakes in stuff that's going on off the field, the sales of key players. Even if Gay stays, his head's been turned, hasn't it? It's been there's been settling when you've got these big offers coming in for your players. they can't have been expecting Anderson to go. Why? That's an odd sideways move back. I know he was at Fulham, but that's a bit of. So I felt you sense that they in the second half they were there for the taking. They didn't play with the intensity that I expected them to play with in the end, and we were clinical in front of goal when it mattered.
Yeah, no, we really were. Sorry, people, I'm going to have to jump forward on these comments because I'm slow as usual. Thank you very much, Mickey. Appreciate it. I love the Bobby Moore stand too, John. Yeah, how you doing? So, Paqueta was good today. I thought he was very good today. I thought he was back to his old self where he was in the mood for an argument. He was all over the place. He was getting involved. He was just a little bit antagonistic of Palace. He
tried at one point, I don't know if you saw this, to recreate that moment from the World Cup 1974 when the Zaire guy ran out of the wall and
yeah.
He obviously thought the referee had signalled play had started and an Eze or something had just touched the ball, so he felt.
Well, he did. He was in the right.
Was he?
Yeah, he was in the right. Walton, you won't see that live, but Adam Walton had actually touched the ball. It was really quick thinking, but the referee hadn't spotted it.
Either way, I love it. I love the fact he was so clearly so pissed off about it all as well. There was intensity. I thought he was inconsistent again today. I thought there were some great things. Still gives the ball away too much for me.
Yeah.
But obviously, there was a lovely moment where he flicked the ball over a guy's head and had a long range spectacular. Yeah. But it's what you want your players to be doing. We've got some players now who get you. Well, I'm always out of my seat, but they would get you out metaphorically. They get you out of your seat. Kudus went on a run today where he was just like dribbling. It was like he was like the kid in the playground. You can't get the fucking ball off. Do you know what I mean?
4 players he tried to beat, didn't he?
Brilliant. He absolutely hit a number on Walton to start it off with, and then just kept. It's fantastic. He's. I love him. I love Kudus.
Yeah, so do I. I think he's just he's going to be genuinely a world-class talent.
He's got to get his head up. He's got to start playing with his head up more.
Yeah.
Because he's great. I think he's the most terrifying. He must be terrifying to play against when he's got the ball, and because he can do for pace. It's stuck to his foot. He's strong, built like a shithouse. You can't just knock him off the ball. So he's terrifying runner with the ball.
Yeah,
but his decision making, and he's a great finisher as well. But his decision making and just sometimes when he receives the ball, it's head down. I want to turn and run with it instead of head up. Can I lay it off? Where's the second? So I think that's something. He's still young and he's learning. And I think, but I think you're right. I mean, I think he's obviously going to end up with a big club.
Yeah,
that's the point. But if he's going to become a world-class player, he's got to improve that aspect of his game, I think.
Did you see when Paqueta ran out of the wall to close that ball down, perfectly legally, the referee tackled him? It was such a clean tackle. he literally...
my mind just went back to that World Cup moment where the guy ran out of the...
Yeah, I remember that. I remember it well. It was brilliant, wasn't it? Absolutely brilliant. I didn't watch the game, but this now gives us confidence for Wednesday, and AWB needs to start against City. I wouldn't be surprised to see Loppy adapt against Bournemouth. I said last week on one of these shows that I thought the first time we'd see the full lineup would likely be against Bournemouth, because I think that's where he's more likely to try stuff out without risking losing the 3 points, and it will probably come good anyway at home to Bournemouth, I would imagine. What do you reckon?
Well, I hope so. I think teams tend to, particularly teams who haven't got European football, tend to use early rounds of the cups, especially to give their squad, use their squad to the full. I'm expecting Todibo to start. I think that Wan-Bissaka, I'm expecting full crew to start that game. Somerville. Hopefully we will see those kinds of players coming, and it will be very refreshing to change the lineup up for a cup game and still feel it's a good starting 11. Because
absolutely right. By the way, kudos on this comment. Never liked Kudus on the left. I think what happened in the first half is you had Kudus playing really wide, and then you had Bowen playing really wide on the other side. And that's not what Lopetegui wants. He wants those wide players to come inside. And you saw that is where Bowen picked up the ball from Wan-Bissaka. And also that is where Kudus launched that run where he tried to beat 4 players. It's immediately he stepped inside.
I agree about Kudus on that. I mean, he is at his best on the right, no doubt. But I think he's a wide player at the moment. He might turn into a genuine number 10, but I don't think he is that at the moment. Partly because of what I said about just not hasn't quite got that awareness of the game around him that you need. Play that role, but terrifying. But I mean, he's still bloody good on the left. But I think you're right. I think he's strong position. I've got a feeling, and I'm who am I to say? But I've got a feeling that we might eventually realise, or Lopetegui might eventually realise that our best attacking 3 might be Bowen in the middle, Kudus on the right, Somerville on the left.
Yeah.
I've really liked what I've seen of Somerville so far. And I've got a very, very good friend who's a passionate Leeds fan, and he really, really rates him. Thinks he's a terrific player, and he's got pace, and he's got great feet, and that might well be a fluid front 3 without necessarily the target man. Might be the way we'll end up. Just gravitating naturally towards that, because I think you're going to eventually want to find a way of getting Somerville in that team. And it's hard to do, isn't it? If you've got your target man up front.
It really is. I think I don't know. I hope nothing happens between now and the end of the transfer window in losing any of our bigger players.
Okay.
But there's always rumours around Kudus leaving, and there is a theory that Somerville was brought in as a Kudus replacement, and this Soler, who we're trying to buy at the moment from PSG. He's clearly in the Paqueta position. Now, whether that's an insurance policy about whether Paqueta, gets a lifetime ban or something, or whether it's just a backup for Paqueta, because when he got injured last season, it hit us hard, didn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it did. Well, it came at a bad time because I think Bowen also got injured at that time, and it was around about AFCON as well, wasn't it? I mean, we really, and then we failed to sign anyone in January.
Yeah, I know.
That was a bad time. Considering, especially as we were well placed at Christmas, and we felt we did piss away last season, really, and I think they were obviously off the field kind of reasons for that. We now realise, I agree. I mean, these transfer windows are not just about who you sign, but who you manage to hold on to. And it would take the wind out of our sails a bit if suddenly we lost to Kudus or a Paqueta at this stage. Don't think Paqueta because of the best betting thing. I just feel Kudus is going to go eventually.
Yeah,
we will make big money out of him. So one way or another, however much we get out of him, we're going to make good money out of him, aren't we? And as long as that's wisely reinvested, I just think that's part of modern football you have to accept, I'm afraid. But
I totally agree. Thank you, Tony, by the way, appreciate that. Let's just go for a couple of comments, because as usual I'm falling behind. Hang on a minute. Hopefully we'll see the best of the new boys on Wednesday. Let me just make this window bigger. Sorry, useless I am. Compliments for you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
I don't know. We need. I don't know. We need Duran. Souček can be our goal machine. Yeah. Look, I think we need. I'm happy for Mickey to be a bench player and Fulkrug to be the main man, but I think we still need a third one. Now, whether that's Danny Ings or someone else, I don't know. But I would like to see a striker with pace coming into the team so that we've got a variety of options.
Yes, I think in the ideal world. That's clearly what they were after in chasing Duran, and rumours about this guy from Echo who's gone to Porto, hasn't he? This Omarodian or whatever his name is.
Omarodian,
yeah. I agree with you. I mean, I think basically, Antonio can't be the striker he used to be because that electric pace is gone.
Yeah, I totally agree.
there were a couple of foot races today that he didn't win, or he won but didn't win in such a decisive way as it led to anything. And for a long while, we've been used to the idea that he can either knock it past the man, or someone can just knock it into space beyond the defender and he'll win that foot race. And we haven't got, but you need someone who can do that, particularly the way we seem to want to play.
By the way, talking about annoying fans, there were a couple of annoying fans, not many, right? Like, everyone's entitled to their opinion, so they want, right? But at a certain point last week in the Villa game, you didn't go to the Villa game, but you watched it on telly. But we were pushed up the pitch quite recklessly at times. I mean, you found Emerson, who was very much more reserved today. At times, you found him on the right side of the opposition's penalty box.
Yeah.
And at one point, we had only, I think, Soufal and maybe Kilman back in defence. That was it. And people were looking at it. Guys were looking at it going, oh, it's Moyes' ball all over again. And I'm thinking, I said, no, it ain't. It's like we sat back behind the ball under Moyes a lot. We're halfway up. We're all the way up the pitch. So I don't think anyone can say that. I think, and I had to threaten to slap Ross, my son's legs today, because he said the same thing as this. He said the lineup made me think Moyes never left. No, look, it's a new manager, it's a new regime. You got to reset the counters and give these players, like Lopetegui's doing, you got to give these players, forget the scars and what happened last year, give them a chance again, That's what I'm saying. First points, a must for us. Yeah, really important to get 3 points today and get off the mark. The longer it went on, the tougher it was going to be, right? You like the fact that Lopetegui said players not yet seen, but will be given a go next week in the cup. That's really good news, actually, Dan. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I think he made reference to that, didn't he? And I think that is good. And I agree, though, that we've got to give the cups a serious go this year. Without the European football, you want to go deep in at least one of them, So I hope I'm all for the squad rotation, but I'm also for trying to win the bloody games,
Yeah, I really want to win a cup. He loves a cup. He's won 3 of them in his career. I'd like him to win another one. Thank you very much, Colin. Very generous of you. I understand that you both say about Souček, but would you want him starting or would you play Alvarez? Well, look, I would play, because I want your opinion, Jim, on Rodriguez, because last week people were saying the conclusion they came to is he ain't got enough pace, and I sort of saw him from behind the goal down in the Bobby Moore stand, obviously, and what I saw was him. He had about sometimes 3 midfielders to deal with, sometimes 2 midfielders to deal with. He was there left doing all the work by himself, and it wasn't a case of he didn't have the pace. It was a case of he was being flooded. Right. And I think when Rodriguez has got a partner like today, he starts to look like the player he is, which is a nice, calm sort of general who he was directing the defense and telling them when to play it safe and when to release the ball early in that game. Did you see that?
Yeah. No, I think he's a leader on the pitch. He's an organizer, definitely. You can see that. He drops in to make almost like a third centre back a lot of the time. He's clearly used to doing that, and you don't get all those caps for Argentina and whatnot without being a good player. No. I feel we often underestimate just how long it can take a player to adjust to the pace and intensity of our league. Even an experienced player, I can remember going back to Fornal's. One of Fornal's first games, an away game at Everton, was fucking hopeless. He just couldn't. Couldn't get on the ball. He gave it away. He just wasn't. The whole thing was a whirlwind happening around him, and he just wasn't used to it. And you do have to adjust to it. And so I think Rodriguez is in that process of adjusting to a new team, but also a new league, and that. And you notice that when Alvarez came on, because Alvarez does have more mobility. I think he does have a bit more pace. You don't necessarily, in that role, you don't necessarily need pace. If you read the game well, if your positional sense is good, it's not just, it's about speed of thought as well as physical, isn't it?
That's what I think as well. And I think what he does is he passes the ball and he makes himself immediately available. Right, he's always moving into space. He doesn't stop moving. Doesn't move very fast, but he doesn't stop moving. And that's the important thing. I think I'm not going to waste my energy. Damien says I'm backing Antonio in the chat. So there's obviously some people who are against Antonio. Now, last week I thought Antonio had an absolute mare. That wasn't beast mode. That was whatever the opposite is. It was terrible. He was pretty poor. His touch evaded him. You know, the sloppy Antonio, because there's two different Antonios. There's the one that gives it his all and doesn't make any massive errors, and there's the one that is just sloppy and looks like he's treading water, and that's the one we got last week. Whereas today, I thought the effort was there. I don't think he made any glaring errors, but he did miss those chances, and it showed you. I think if Fulkrug had both of those chances, he would have scored.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I didn't. Again, they were at the far end, so perhaps I didn't see it clearly. But no, I love Antonio. Don't get me wrong.
So do I. Yeah.
Favorite players of recent time. I love his story. I love the attitude and everything. And I think he does always put the effort in. You can never accuse him of being a lazy player.
No.
But so much of his game has been predicated on that sprinter's pace. You know, that kind of 100-meter.
And he hasn't got it anymore, has he? He hasn't got that pace anymore.
Because he has to also look after his hamstrings, hasn't he? We've done as a club, the medical team, whatever, have done a very, very good job with managing him to age 34 or what he is with in recent years fewer of those muscle injuries.
But he hasn't had one. He hasn't had a hamstring for years now, has he?
No, that's right. And I'm very happy to have him as part of the squad. But I no longer think he can be if we're serious about trying to crack the top 6 or 7, I don't think he can be the main man anymore. I'm very happy.
I totally agree, and I think what Damien's saying here is, with all respect, if Antonio misses a chance, he gets pelters, whereas Fulkrug doesn't. I think that's right. There are people who have got a bit of an agenda against Antonio. That much is for sure. I mean, I think he's been a great servant. He's our highest ever Premier League goal scorer. Strange for someone who is really a winger, but he has scored some fantastic goals for us over the years, hasn't he? And we can't forget that. Got a bit of respect for him, and he's gone through a lot in his personal life as well. I know he's gone through a divorce and all that sort of stuff. He's had to have counselling, and he's been seeing a psychiatrist and everything else. So you got to give the guy a bit of a break, and I don't agree, because I think it's counterproductive to get on any player's back who is wearing a West Ham shirt and absolutely get really personal with them, especially on social media, because these players watch social media. They look at social media. It's demoralizing for them. And so people who absolutely cane Souček or Antonio or Ward-Prowse, I mean, let them leave first. While they're still a West Ham player, you got to give them a break, haven't you? So I kind of agree. I know what you're saying, Damien, and I agree with it. He's got his problems, but he's 34 years old. What do you want? On a happier note, right? Mikey just said, I've lost the comment now, but he said 25-1 for West Ham to win the FA Cup. Fancy some of that, Jim?
I'm not a betting man. It's not one of my vices, but that's pretty good odds, isn't it? Actually,
it is.
Got to say, I mean, we've been close. I mean, you just think back to the way we played in that first 45 minutes against Leverkusen in that cup game.
Yeah.
But with a stronger squad, we have got the quality of players. It's like we are going to be one of those teams that on their day can beat anyone.
Yeah.
So you'd have to hope that means you're a good cup team, and we grow up with watching West Ham and thinking about they were always the crashings out to your Torquays and whatnot, but we always loved the cup, and we had some good runs in the cup, when we were growing up, Gary, didn't we? So I'd love to get back to that. I'd love to be a kind of team where if someone draws us in the cup, they go, oh shit, I'd love to. We're never going to have the sustained resources. It feels to me anyway, unless there's some kind of freak season like with Leicester, we're never going to have resources we can't expect to challenge to win the league. but we can be good enough to win a cup, I think. And
of course we can. I think we can get into Europe again as well, Jim.
Definitely that. And God, so I'm looking forward to some of those trips again. I know I'm optimistic about that. But it has annoyed me that we've had managers in recent times who have clearly, deliberately not prioritised the cup and not understood how fans see. I'm unlike you, Gary. I was pretty much a Moyes inner. I liked Moyes and I appreciate what he did for our club. But the biggest disappointment for me for last season was I was one of the 6,000 that went to Anfield for that League Cup game, and just seeing when the team sheet that came out, you just felt the collective groan.
Yeah.
And the capitulation on the pitch was partly because they just there was next to no support from 6.
No. And that is, what you said. I mean, I had my own reasons for not liking Moyes, and there was a lot of them. But you, like Dodsey, who goes to every single game, whether it's a pre-season friendly or whatever, you go to most of them as well. You had a fabulous time touring Europe, didn't you?
Absolutely, bloody marvelous. Met people, and I mean, those are the memories you have as a football fan that are really, really special. I mean, and when you stand at Palace and sing, "You'll never sing that," Champions of Europe. And I know there's there's a bit of self-deprecating irony in the Champions of Europe thing because it's. But nevertheless, we've got that night in Prague, haven't we? And you can't take that away from it. And cup, that's what cups give you, what cup finals give you. I even look back at Cardiff, those the cup final, and I look back, that was still with pride in the club, and it was a great. I mean, God, it was bitterly disappointing, but it was a great day out, and I want you want those things as a fan. I'm not bothered about the difference in the end. Finishing whether you finish 9th or 10th or whatever the process is irrelevant. I hated Allardyce for that alone.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I hated the way he disrespected the fans. I really hated the way he disrespected the fans. What's the West Ham way? It's ridiculous. And to a certain degree, that is what offended me about Moyes last year, because he's been the manager for several years and 2 stints, and he was more or less dismissing anything we'd ever done in Europe as if winning that trophy was the first time we'd ever done anything in Europe. That is what he was saying a lot of the time. And it's the way he phrased it, especially Anyway, we shouldn't get into Moyes. It's depressing. We've had a lovely day.
I don't want to tread that ground. No.
Yeah.
There are things I disagree with you about that. But I think we haven't talked about the defenders today.
Let's do that.
And I have to say, I mentioned earlier that Kilman just had you don't watch opposition players that carefully, do you? So when I was Wolves, I didn't get the impression he was anything other than a meat and potatoes centre half, really. But I think he's a bit more than that. He does all the old fashioned things. He's good in the air. He's decisive. He goes and wins headers. He's not passive in that respect. He gets on the front foot. He can carry the ball out of defence. There were 2 or 3 times he brought the ball beautifully out of defence.
Did you know he was an England futsal player?
Yeah, that's fantastic. You can see that in this game. But his covering tackles, his blocks, some great defending at there was at one point where I can't remember who it was for Palace, got in at the near post, got round the fullback, and there he was sliding in at the near post, making sure that that nothing would come of it, snuffing out problems. And I thought he made Mavro look a better player today. I thought Maropanos had a good game as well. They were both good, and you sense that there's that he's making the players around him more confident, better organised. He looks a leader on the pitch to me, and that surprised me because I'm a bit of a skeptic. I wasn't sure whether 40 million on him was sound.
I think a lot of people had that view. A lot of people were saying we overpaid for him, but I'm looking at him today and in the Villa game, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it was about the right price, or maybe we underpaid for him, because if he carries on like that, he's going to be. Imagine if Todibo comes in and is even better. Imagine what a partnership that's going to be.
Yeah, I like the look of him. I like the look of that. I like the way he tackles, the way he closes space down, gets in people's faces to do best so far. On the few glimpses I've
Well,
had.
he's a bit of a beast. He came on last week against Villa, and the first thing he did was start roughing up the striker. Right,
Yes,
Duran. He got hold of him.
do that today, getting into people, being a physical presence. And I like that. I like it when defenders let forward players know they're here. You know what I mean? That's what one of the things I've always liked about Soufal. He just wants a battle. He loves a battle. A lot of us will remember in the early days that first game he had against Grealish, where
that was where those memes have been published, where it was like he was looking in the rearview mirror of his car and the Grealish, and he saw Soufal's eyes, his mad eyes, looking back at him.
And that's what you want, players like that in your team. Definitely that attitude. Having said that, you look at the introduction of Wan-Bissaka today, and it kind of swung the game in the end. It was probably the crucial.
I'll tell you what. The rumor when we got Wan-Bissaka was he don't get forward, and the problem with Wan-Bissaka is he hasn't really ever been tested at getting forward and putting in crosses, and so people assume that he hasn't got a cross. That might be true, because what he did was he got forward, no problem getting forward, absolutely brilliant. But then as soon as he crossed the halfway line, he literally found a very strange way of getting the ball to Bowen, and what a brilliant pass! It was totally unorthodox.
Yeah. It was lovely little inside ball, wasn't it? It was like a kind of no look, kind of slip it inside in rugby or something. He looks like someone who could maraud up and down that flank. He's got pace, got physicality.
Yeah.
I think it's a measure of what a basket case Manchester United have become, that we end up getting, because he's staggered how young. He seems to have been around forever. He's only about 4 or 5, isn't he? He's not an old player. So we're getting him prime for 50. He went for 45, 50 million as a teenager to Man United. We got him for 50. He could turn out to be one of the signings of the season anyway in the league. Never mind our best signing of the season.
People get bored with me saying this, Jim, but did you watch the FA Cup final?
Do you know? I don't think.
Go and watch the FA Cup final. Who's that really talented player who had a blinding season who plays on the left for City?
Oh, Doku.
Yeah. Wan-Bissaka literally had him in his pocket all afternoon. It was the best bit of one-on-one defending I think I've ever seen. It was fantastic.
That's interesting, because that's what he's known for, isn't he? As a one defender. But as you say, he's not got a reputation of being an attacking right back. But that was the first thing he did when he got the ball today, was just charge down the wing.
Yeah. He's called the Spider. He's called the Spider, Jim. That's what he's called.
Love him.
So,
that was, I thought, for a cameo of a debut for 20 minutes or whatever it was. You can ask for much more, to be honest. I thought it was fantastic.
Absolutely brilliant. So, look, let us now finish off by doing the player ratings, right? So, I'm going to put on a rudimentary player rating screen, which I made in Excel today. So forgive my lack of creativity, people. Don't matter, does it? So we're going to go through. Let us know what your player ratings are in the chat, Jim. We'll take it in turns. Let's start with Areola. What's your rating?
Right. So I'm not used to doing this. So
out of 10.
Out of 10.
Say 6 is average. Yeah.
Okay. So I thought we did nothing wrong today. Came off his line well to stop as a claimed a couple of looked all right at set pieces. 7.
Yeah.
Are we on now, Soufal? Are you doing?
No, it's just Areola still. So what, you give him a 7? Yeah. Sorry, you broke up there when I.
Yeah, 7. I'm giving
7. Let me do this. This is really awkward. I'm going to have to get myself an app to do this, or do it around. So I'll take Soufal. I actually thought that Soufal had 100%. He was 100% better than last week. I thought he was. He wasn't isolated this week, but he looked surprisingly a lot more energetic this week. Last week, I could see, because it was up close and personal, that he was blowing out of his arse trying to get up and down the pitch. He wasn't doing that today. I thought it was an improvement. A lot of people giving him a 6. There's a few I'd be tempted to give him a 6 or a 7, to be honest. I don't think I'm going to give him a 5. I'm going to give him an average game. I don't think he did anything wrong as such. So I'm going to, Tony, you know what you can do with that donkey? That ain't coming on this channel. So I'm going to go 6 for Soufal. So, Jim, Mavropanos or Mavropanos. How'd you say it? You know these things, Jim. Is it Mavropanos?
I honestly, I don't really. But Mavropanos? I don't know.
Mavropanos. Dinos.
I thought it was good. I thought it was a good game. I thought the centre halves were a big reason why we kept the clean sheet and why we won the game. To be honest, it was a great recovery tackle late on in the game.
Yeah.
Dese or somebody got back and just got a foot in. I'm between a 7 and 8. I'll go 7.
Go 7. Right. I'll take Kilman. I thought Kilman, this is the luck of the draw, really. I thought Kilman was absolutely imperious today. We've already covered this. We've already done this one to death. But the way he ran with that ball, I knew that both he and Todibo, by the way, they're both progressive centre-halves. Todibo had 6 assists last season, right? And that is the first of Kilman's assists. We've got these 2 players that are going to get up the pitch, and it's not unusual. He did it against Villa last week. He carried the ball to the edge of the Villa box. Right, yeah. This is a proper player with ball here. Yeah. I'm tempted to give him a 9. You know, I thought. I mean, he was my man of the match. We'll do that at the end. I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go for a 9 with Kilman. Yeah, I thought it was as close to perfect as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Right, Emerson, Jim.
Yeah, a very typical Emerson game. You know, the bright moments, some good interplay with Paqueta, moments where he took the ball forward. I think he's always done the way he's being expected to get forward. There are always going to be times when he's caught out of position, and I don't think that's necessarily his fault. Like I said about Soufal last week as well. So 7.
Okay, and I will take the next one, which is Rodriguez. These are not quite lining up properly. It's a bit rubbish. Right, Rodriguez. So I thought, again, he was so much better. Last week was a game of 2 after him. He was poor in the first. He looked off the pace. Second half, I thought he was a lot better. And I don't know whether that was a change in formation or whatever, but he improved. Today, having someone playing alongside him, he was a lot better than last week. I love the way he always moves into space. Just watch him. Just watch him on the telly, or if you go to a game, just watch Rodriguez and what he does. He never stops moving. He's always making himself available. And I thought he was great today. I thought he was really good. I'm going to give him a 7. Give him a 7.
Wouldn't argue with that.
Yeah, I don't think it was outstanding. So sorry, it is completely out of line. But the next one is Lucas Paquetá.
Yeah, I know some people obviously felt he was good today. You have to kind of sort of slightly bear in mind that what we know he's capable of being.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that I think, in a way, at the moment, I don't think Lopetegui is using him in quite the right position. I think he needs to be a more out and out number 10, personally. But had a good game. Was committed. 7.
7. Yeah. So this is not surprising me that he scores, because I don't think many people had a bad game. I don't think anybody had a bad game. So the next one is Thomas Souček. Now, I was really impressed with Thomas Souček, even in the first half, even before he scored that winning goal. I thought he was given a job to do, and he did it really well. And the other people around him were joining in the press, and he was giving it his all and trying to close people down and actually running around. And you don't see Thomas Souček run around that aggressively usually. He was doing it. He changed. Clearly, he's listening to the coaches and he's doing things that they're asking him to do. I feel for him. And apparently, according to Claire in the chat, he saved the young lad who got hurt by. Do you see what happened there when the thing collapsed?
No, I couldn't see. No, I couldn't see what had happened because, I was deliriously punching the air. And whatever, and hugging strangers at the time. So
yeah, so let me know in the chat if anyone saw what actually happened there, because it seemed like Souček scored, went over to the crowd to celebrate. The crowd pulled forward, the hoarding fell over, and the young Stuart, little ball boy, got injured, got hurt, and Thomas Souček was the one who lifted the ball up and helped the boy escape. So he's not only a goal scorer and a match winner and a decent player today, he's also a hero as well.
yes, yeah, bless him. Yeah.
So I'm going to give him a bonus point for that. I'm going to give him a bonus point. I'm going to give him an 8. I can't give him a 9 like Kilman, but I'm going to give him an 8. Next one for me is Bowen, who I thought was last week. Bowen didn't really turn up, right? Because he was spending most of his game playing as a kind of auxiliary right back, and I didn't like that, right? I didn't like it. Yes, I did watch the game, Johnny, but like, you know, I even celebrate when I'm at home, and I jumped up off the sofa, and when I looked around, there was a young kid being led away. I missed it. Right, where was I? Bowen. I thought he did really well today. He did really well today. Not captain material. Don't know how you can say that, Gary. I think what do you think about him as a captain?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't think captain matters too much on the pitch in football. Not like it is in, you know, in cricket, or you know, where you've got to actually make just tactical decisions. So I think it's a leadership. I'm a traditionalist, and I agree with a lot of people who prefer to see their captain as someone who's playing in defence or midfield.
Yes.
Who sees the game ahead of them. On the other hand, I think, you know, he's turning into the nearest we've got to a Mr. West Ham at the moment, isn't he? And
he's marrying West Ham royalty, right?
Yes, he is, and he's got that passion and whatever. I thought he was terrific today. I think he did a amount of work off the ball. He led the press. There was one point where the pressing work, he turned the ball over and nothing quite came of it. He was Johnny on the spot for both the goals, really. Give him an 8 today.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Right, now this is a difficult one, Jim. Kudus.
Oh, is that you or me?
No, go on, you can have him.
Oh, right.
You were there, because I've got my opinion of him, and my opinion of him is probably a little bit clouded through watching it on telly. I'd like to have seen him when the cameras were not on him. Yeah.
Well, I thought he put in a shift. I think he works hard. I don't think he's one of those showboaty players. I think he's with passion and commitment, and I think in that sense. But again, I just felt I agree with the person in the chat who said he's not as effective on the left as he is on the right. I think that's a problem, because Bowen has obviously got that position nailed down. I'm going to give him a 7 today, because as I say, it's the team performance doesn't dip below good, really.
No.
But in the end, you know, he had Souček set him up in the first half with a chance that he took a bad touch. Unusual.
That's right. Yeah, he fumbled it, didn't he? And his second shot was blocked, wasn't it?
That, you know, or at least got a shot on target out of that. But
I think he needs a goal, Kudus, just to get the engine running again.
Yes, you're possibly right. Yeah.
And that's what I look for at Bournemouth in midweek. I want to see him and Fulkrug get a goal. Love that.
So
last but not least, let's divide the people in the chat. Michael Antonio. So I reckon he put in a massive shift today. I'm not so sure he was that fit last week. He didn't appear to be working very hard last week. Today, he definitely was. He was. He gave it his all. So for effort, I'd give him 9 out of 10. For finishing, I'd give him striker's instinct. I'd give him 3 or 4 out of 10. He cost us a couple of chances, in my view. You wouldn't have seen if it was down the other end, but it was pretty bad. He also, don't forget, when he got down the wing and blazed that ball across goal, he done quite a lot in the attacking third. I'm not gonna give him any sort of 3 or 4. I'm gonna give him a 6, like Soufal, because I think he was average. I don't think he was better than average, but he wasn't below average.
Yeah. Okay. I'll accept that.
Okay, let's move on to the subs quickly. So in the order they came on, Nicholas Füllkrug, the big German.
Had a couple of chances in the end. I like his movement. I like the way his link-up play. We've got to get runners running past him because he wins those flick-ons.
Yeah.
And he will win them. But we didn't really talk about him, and just in broad terms, not just about today. I've watched quite a lot of Bundesliga, and I've really loved him. I loved him when he was at Bremen, I think it was. The team are playing green, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh yeah, he's a player you'd love at West Ham, but not. I wonder about now. I wonder whether or not he's,
Well, he scored 2 for Germany in the Euros, and also he scored in the Champions League semi-final last year for Dortmund. And apparently Dortmund didn't want him to go.
No. So jury's out on him, though. I think a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm giving him a 6 today.
Did you see that for that the goal, the second goal, the Kilman ball to Bowen? Yeah. Füllkrug's movement in drawing the defender in left the way clear for Bowen.
I mean, there was a contrast when he came on for Antonio. Just as part of the experience of playing that position, he just creates space for himself in a way that Antonio doesn't. It's a different kind of player.
Yeah. He's an intelligent player. He's definitely an intelligent player. He's got a footballing brain. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I think, other than these, the two at the end won't bother marking them. Just give him a 6. They were barely on the pitch, right? I think Edison Alvarez. No, we'll talk about him briefly. I think it's good to see him back. Wan-Bissaka, the big one. Go on, Obi Wan-Bissaka.
Well, what you can't. He's got to be at least an 8, because what else would expect him to do coming on as substitute at right back? Change the game.
You know what? It was one of the most enjoyable substitutions I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed his performance. He was popping up everywhere. Yeah. Right, he's he knows so what he's doing. I mean, he didn't cost 50 million by mistake, did he?
No.
Palace know how good he is as well. Yeah, gave him a good reception as well, didn't they?
Did they? I never noticed anything the opposition.
Yeah. So you're too busy in your own crowd, being all biased, Jim. And finally, last but not least, before we get to Lopetegui, Edison Alvarez.
I thought it was terrific when he came on, all over the high energy, getting a foot in, breaking things up, starting moves from deep. I just think he's a top notch player, and see him back.
I think he is. That's the one who I tipped to be captain. I thought he would be captain, but I have no problem with Bowen getting it. I think the players, when they're at this sort of level, they don't need guidance on the pitch anyway. And I think the team is filled with leaders. He's one of them. Rodriguez is another one of them. We've already got those leaders. They're not going to stop leading just because Jared Bowen's got the armband, right?
I've actually given him the responsibility, because actually a captain, as well as being a leader, has got to stay. You've got to stay on the pitch. He's got.
that is right. Well,
sent off is going to be an achievement. I just feel you might cramp his style a bit. I just want him to be order. Just I want him to be getting booked every game.
Yeah, so do I. I think he's fun to watch. I love watching him. What do you reckon? 7 or 8? I'm going to give him an 8.
Oh, well, good. Yeah. Well, I don't want. You don't want your captain doing that, do you? So I think you cramp his style by making him captain.
Yeah. So given the selection, and I thought the substitutions were all bang on, excellent today. Given the result, given what could have happened, what would you give Julian Lopetegui today?
I think he changed. I think he certainly changed something about the attitude and the intensity at halftime. So he obviously halftime team talk. I quite like his kind of passion and energy on the sidelines.
He don't sit still.
The starting lineup we can question, and we have questioned, obviously, and people will question. But I think you're right. The substitutions made sense. The key substitutes had time to influence the game.
Yeah.
At 8, I think he's a good managerial performance.
Yeah. I think it was, and I love the way he never even attempts to go into his technical area.
Yeah.
So let's put a few of these up. Right. So I think that kind of wraps it up for the review. I would say I mean, Bournemouth in midweek. Give us your prediction for Bournemouth.
So hard, isn't it? Because you don't know what the relative strengths of the teams are going to be. You have to on a cup night.
How are they getting on, Jim? Bournemouth?
They drew. Did they draw their first game, or did they win it? Did they
Drew by the looks of it. We're 7th, by the way.
Yeah. Well, for now.
No, we're 7th, Jim.
Yeah. We're going to beat Bournemouth in a cup at home, surely. But I think it might be quite tight. 2-1.
Let me remove that off of there and go back to that screen. 2-1. So I'm going to go for another night out and a 3-0 win. Another 3-0 off the back of Loppy. I think this is the start of a beautiful thing. It's going to be a cup run. It's going to be a cup win, Jim. I'm not getting carried away, but I am.
I think you are. Yeah.
Right. That is us done. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for joining. Thanks for the contributions from some of you. It was really nice. And until next time, I'll be back with a preview of the Bournemouth game at some point. A lot of football coming up this week. Thank you all for joining. See you soon. Come on, your hands.
Cheers.